Count is another one of those built-in aggregate functions that you can use querying SQL Server 2012. And so in this video, we're going to talk about using count. Now in two other videos, we focused in on using the sum aggregate function. Then we focused in on using the average aggregate function. And now we're going to dig into count. Count simply counts the number of occurrences of values that are returned by a query. So let's jump out to the SQL Server Management Studio and let's work through an example on this. It's the best way to understand it. Now, the first thing we're going to do, again, we're going to use this sales order detail table. Notice it's in the sales schema. And if you remember, we talked about schemas earlier. Schemas are just containers that we can use to apply permissions and all sorts of things at a higher level and group things together. And so let's just execute this query. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I will just highlight this query with my mouse. Okay, then I'll execute that. And you'll notice, again, sales order ID, we've been paying close attention to this line total column right here, and we've been working in it. Well, so far we've summed this thing and we've averaged this thing, but now let's count how many items we have. Now the first one is going to be a little ridiculous, but I want to run it because in its simplicity, it will help you understand what exactly is going on here. And I'm going to make this from sales.sales order detail. Notice I'll just jump down to that and press enter. And again, it's good coding practice to use semicolons. I don't use them because I don't have the habit of using them, but in future versions, they're going to give me that habit. Okay. But anyway, so I'll click execute. And so notice this gives me all my line totals, right? Well, there's 121,317 rows in the table, and there's an entry for each one of those. Okay. Well, I want to count those. All right. And so I'm just going to put the keyword count. Just like I did with sum, just like I did with average. I'll use the keyword count there. And this time, when I execute it, notice 121,317. It gave me the count of the rows that had values in them. And it was the same as the number of rows in the table. If you can get your head around what it just did, then that gets pretty interesting because we can now use this, like in our previous examples, if you have already viewed the videos on averaging and summing, we can now put the where clause in. So we're going to limit this now. Let's make it count something that means something to us. Let's limit it with a where clause, where the special offer ID, and you remember we worked with that in the average and sum videos as well. So how many entries, how many line total entries do we have where the special offer ID is equal to 4? Let's execute that. Oh, we have 80 of those. Okay, and I could put a literal up here, right? Just like that. And then I could execute that. And instead of seeing no column name, now I can see right here count of items. But let's now use our average. Let's say that, what's the average of those? So let's get average line total. We'll put them all together here in one. If you haven't seen the using average video, go watch that. But I'll execute and notice now I should have put a literal right here. Actually, I've confused my literals now. Show you an easy fix here. Highlight that, click it, left drag it over. And if I hadn't have hit space, come right there and just move it over. Then on my average, I'm just going to put a literal of average values. And I'll have to make that a literal just like that. Now, I don't know if you can see all of that, but don't worry about it for right now. And I'll execute that. And notice now I have 80. The average value of those is this 1551 right here. And I am going to kick this down to the next line so you can see them because I'm going to add one more. And we'll just kind of use the whole thing that we've learned here. We'll also add a sum. And we'll just call this sum. I'll put it in a literal because sum is also a keyword and it'll get confused if I don't. So once again, let's execute this. Notice the power and the flexibility I'm coming up with here. In one look, I can see that we've sold 80 of these things with 80 items off of the special offer ID 4. Here's the average value of each one of those sales. And here's the total sum of those sales. Pretty interesting information. I can very easily change this. So let's just check special offer ID 3 just by changing that one search condition. And notice we sold 606, average value of 1712. Then there's the sum. These aggregate functions can give you a lot of power in your reporting and drilling into meaning in your data. And so this one, we concentrated on count, and then we added the other two in with it. But I hope this helps you understand how to use these functions, and we'll come back to these when we talk about grouping. So I'll see you there.